Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the lesbrown Motivational Monday Night Call, your place for motivation and inspiration by world-renowned speaker, author, coach, Mr. Les Brown, featuring Mr. Brown and his platinum speakers. We appreciate you and thank you for tuning into the call. We invite you to connect with Mr. Brown on Facebook, and that is brown.les on Facebook. And you can also visit the Les Brown University, lesbrownuniversity.com, to be able to find out how you can just get some real juicy nuggets of inspiration from Mr. Brown at lesbrownuniversity.com, and you can let them know I sent you. That's the Stacey N.C. Grant. And then you can also go to the lesbrowninstitute.com, the lesbrowninstitute.com, where you can find out about the next upcoming training with Mr. Brown. If you are looking to find ways in which you can go ahead and start speaking yourself or creating your coaching business and sharing your brilliance with the world. So we appreciate your interest in what Mr. Brown is doing to change and inspire lives all across the globe. So with that being said, make sure you stay connected so you can find out about the different opportunities that you can see Mr. Brown live and participate in the work and the training. So tonight I wanted to let you know that Mr. Brown is sending you his love. It is a great time when he is feeling on top of the world and inspiring lives and traveling the country, and sometimes you can't get on live to share the message directly with you, but he is grateful for all of your prayers and email that you have sent in and just encouraging words that he knows that his work is not in vain. So I just want to, on his behalf, let you know how much he appreciates and values each and every one of you. And in the climate of our world, there's so much going on, right? And today was a day where everyone was talking about the solar eclipse 2017. And I was thinking about just what all of the activity is. I mean, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for many. It's been quite a while since the last eclipse, and who knows if we'll be able to see another one in this lifetime. But anytime there's national news or something that's going on, I always sit back and reflect and just think about what that means, that one moment where the moon was in front of the sun, the moment that everyone was looking forward to see this eclipse of the sun, and it's just the scientific wonder that it brings. And I always try to bring it back home to where we are and what we're doing in our lives, and some of the things sometimes that have to just align in the right order for a magical moment, a moment where it'll never be repeated again. It'll never be duplicated again, but just a moment, and in that moment, what that means and what that experience can bring. And while we might not have a solar eclipse as literal as the one that was just experienced this day, what we can do is think about the ways in which we show up in the world, because it was all about how the moon was showing up today, how there was an opportunity for us to witness this turn around the sun in a different way, this way in which we were able to see something that doesn't come by every day. It's not an ordinary occurrence. It was a special occurrence, and we look for those magical, special, once-in-a-lifetime moments every day. And we're working towards that every day. You're inspired by Mr. Brown and the words that he shared and the trainings that you have heard and the YouTube videos that you've seen and the books that you've read and the other speakers like myself who have platforms that have inspired you. And what is it all for? It's getting us to a point where we can create that magical moment, that once-in-a-lifetime way that we can really leave our mark, that we can make a difference, that we can add value, that we can create an impact and change this world globally, that others will be talking about your work long after you have exited this planet, that there's that one thing that you're pushing towards, that you're creating so that you can make a difference. And then I said, let's take this a little further. Let's do a spin on this solar eclipse of 2017, and let's talk about the ways in which we can create just some small moments a phenomenal opportunity. Just some small moments of some never seen before instances that we can impact someone's life. And it brought me back to a staple, like one of the books that should be in your library, one of the things that you should have read at some point in your life. And if you haven't, to just get a copy, pick it up. It's an old fan favorite. It's one of those personal development must-have in your library. And I'm just going to read a bit from you because I just got word that Mr. Brown might actually be able to be live with us. So I just want to share just 6 little principles that you can hold on to as we prepare to check the microphones and make sure that Mr. Brown is live tonight, that I thought about in creating a special moment in your life. And these principles come from the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's like I said, a fan favorite. Dale Carnegie. He created this opportunity for you to learn how to really interact with people. And if you can follow these 6 things, just helping people to like you and know you, and when you listen to them, you might realize why you've fallen in love with Les Brown, why you're attracted to the work that we're doing, because he lives by these principles. So I'm just going to tell you them really quick, and then we're going to get Mr. Brown on himself. So if you are on, you still have a moment to tell a friend, send a tweet, post it out, and let folks know that Mr. Brown will be live. So here are these quick principles. Become genuinely interested in other people. Principle number 1. Smile is principle number 2. And we know that Les Brown can make you smile. Principle number 3. Remember that a person's name is a way, and one of the sweetest ways that person will really understand and know how much they're appreciated, right? So remember that a person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language. When you can remember and say, hello, Mr. Brown, it was a pleasure meeting you, it makes the difference. Principle 4, be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves so you can learn about them. Principle number 5, talk in terms of the other person's interests. Sometimes we focus so much on ourselves that we lose the opportunity to meet some incredible and amazing people. And the last principle, make the other person feel important and do it sincerely. And I tell you, as I work with Mr. Brown and I've watched him and learned from him and speak and travel with him, that's one of the principles that he's mastered the most. He will make you feel like you're the only person on the planet when he's in your presence because he values you that much. And in those moments, he creates the magic, the same kind of excitement and fervor that we were all talking about today with this solar eclipse that doesn't come but once every how many hundreds of years. He can create those moments that'll make you feel as if you've had the best experience of a lifetime. And with that, Mr. Brown, let's check these microphones and see if you are live.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
We have a little echo, Mr. Brown.
What about now?
That's much better, Mr. Brown.
Very good. Well, I see you on fire tonight.
Well, you just warm it up a little bit for my mentor himself to come. I'm so excited. You know, everybody was listening for your voice, and they were almost going to get disappointed if they didn't hear you. But I'm so glad I get to turn over the line to you, and you can fire us up and give us that special experience of a lifetime.
Well, I tell you, this is a special day. And it's first of all, I want to recognize when I was coming up, Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis, they were great comedians, and I love their work. But I also love and admire the work of Dick Gregory, who he passed this past weekend. Dick Gregory marched with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dick Gregory was one of the most courageous men I've known. I remember during the Civil Rights Movement and the pledge that he made to Dr. King, who had embraced the principles of Mahatma Gandhi of being nonviolent. Dick Gregory did something that I know I could not have done. He watched a white police officer kick his pregnant wife, and he did not intervene. He kept his commitment to nonviolence, to make it possible that we would be able to walk with dignity rather than ride in shame. He he restrained his anger so that we would have the ability to have the ballot rather than the bullet. He honored our lives with his life and his commitment and his sacrifice so that we would be able to live our dreams rather than the American nightmare. So I salute that brother. He was a very odd brother. He was a health fanatic who loved barbecue every now and then. He would put on some shades and a cap and sit outside of a barbecue place and have somebody go in and get him a rib. He was a funny guy. He was a great guy. Dick Gregory, he lived a full life, 84. I want to talk about now. A lot of people talking about the eclipse. I didn't watch it. I didn't get all caught up in it. But let me tell you what I did get caught up in. On this day, many years ago, in Hampton, Virginia, was the Nat Turner Revolution. On this day, Nat Turner got a group of men together to fight for our freedom. On this day, Nat Turner had a vision and a dream that he was determined that we would become free. They called out the National Guard. When they captured Nat Turner, they tortured him. There are some places. I did a play called The Return of Nat Turner with Dr. Anthony Sweeting, who now lives in Atlanta. It was a gospel play, but great, riveting acting. And I remember going to Southampton, Virginia, and I remember a family, a white family there, and a lady took us out to a little shanty house in the back and showed us a lampshade where they used his skin for a lampshade. Nat Turner was a great man. And on this day, he did the unthinkable. He waged a revolution to fight for our freedom. So that the words of the black anthem that we've heard, stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading a path through the blood of the slaughtered. When I lived in Columbus, Ohio, I was known not just for being a disc jockey. I was known, if you talk to anybody there about lesbrown, for doing editorials and for speaking out in 1974 and 1980 against police brutality when it was not possible, when it was not popular. Someone sent me something, a guy, when I was in Chicago and on radio in Chicago. And he saved several years some editorials that I did against police brutality, particularly in Chicago, because the United Nations had recognized Chicago as the worst country in the world with the most brutal police force in the world. And some things happened in Chicago. I'll never forget when I was on radio and I did an editorial, and I was very popular. But after I did this editorial against who at that time was the Mayor Daley, that all the speaking engagements in Chicago stopped abruptly because I was considered too militant. Mayor Daley would interview with anyone, but he would not interview with me. And because he knew I would eat him alive. And so I want to play something that was sent to me, and I said, oh my God. As we look at this day, a time where the President of the United States has has emboldened the Nazis and the Ku Klux Klan and skinheads so they no longer have to hide in the shadows, that they can come out now and show their faces because they have leadership in the White House. And I went to an event here in Cleveland, and I had to be escorted out because I spoke up. And I never thought things that I saw on television this past week with men marching with tiki torches, saying Jews will not replace us, saying blood and soil, quoting the quotes from Nazis. I never thought I would see people doing a Heil Hitler sign. I never thought that when we look at the police brutality that takes place today, I did a lecture on how you can increase your chances of living if you follow these directions. And as I was talking to these young men, it bothered me that even if they did everything I said, they could still be killed. I'm reminded of a young man who had a kid who had autism, and police approached him, and he said with his hands up, "Listen, please don't shoot. He has autism, and I'm just helping him. I'm a counselor." And as the officer closed in on this young man, he shot him. And the young man asked, "Why did you shoot me?" "I had my hands up. I have no gun. I told you that. This young boy has autism." And the white cop said, "I don't know." Now, we're living in a time where we have to tell our young men that we don't have equal protection under the law. That when you get stopped by a cop, they have one of three things in mind. One, to arrest you. Two, to frame you. Or three, to kill you. And they know they have no consequences for their actions. They know the prosecuting attorney is on their side. They know the judge is on their side. They know that good cops will not testify against them. My brother-in-law was a police officer for over 20 years, and I said, "Have you seen things that we talk about in terms of police brutality?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "Did you tell?" He said, "No." I said, "Why not, Alex?" He said, "Les, when you stop someone, they're a stranger. And if my white partner beat them or killed them, and if I tell, not only would I jeopardize my career, I'll be called a snitch. But if I get in a vulnerable position and call for help, they will say to each other, 'That's that snitch. Let him get killed.'" He said, "They will never tell on each other." And so cops know they have absolute power. And the President of the United States say, when you arrest someone, don't put them in a car gently, don't put your hand over the head, rough them up. When you have that kind of sick, demented leadership in the White House. And so when DJ Phantom in Chicago sent me one of my editorials, it brought back a lot of memories. It struck a tone with me. It reminded me of Lesbrown, the activist. And I tell you, as we look at where we are and what we're going through, that I truly believe that we were born for a time like this. I truly believe that greater is he than in us and he that's in the world. I truly believe that we have to speak from the place, the Jews who said, "Never again." I truly believe there's a determination and there is a level of courage that we must display now than we've never done before. I want to play something for you when I editorialize about these men, these black men that were arrested in Chicago. And no one had spoken out against this. They had been in prison for years, and confessions had been extracted from them. And the Mayor Daley and the state attorney made a deal that they would not reveal what these white cops did to these black men. And I'm going to play it for you. And until the statute of limitation would run out so that the families could not sue. And the reason that I'm saying this, that when I talked to these young black men yesterday, that I should not have had to have that conversation. But we don't have equal protection under the law. Even though the increase of police killings has increased by 40% in 2016, but 71% of the white cops are killed by white men, not by black men. So when I think about the voice that I used to have before I did motivational speaking, this brought back some memories. I want you to hear something. Just a moment.
Hello, this is Les Brown. Black folk all over Chicago are talking about it. The Chicago Police Torture Report that has brought shame to law enforcement around the world. I read it, I cried, and it made me sick to my stomach.
First of all, can you hear it? Hello? Stacy?
Yes, we can hear it loud and clear, Les.
Oh, you could? Excellent. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but listen to it.
Hello, this is Les Brown. Black folk all over Chicago are talking about it. The Chicago Police Torture Report that has brought shame to law enforcement around the world. I read it, I cried, and it made me sick to my stomach. The findings of this report will make any black person gasp with horror and ask in disbelief, how could they do that? We cannot ignore this. This could have been your father, your brother, your son. To sum up the findings of this report, during the mid-70s and early 90s, Chicago police carried out systematic torture of numerous black men to get them to confess. They beat them until they defecated on themselves. They put bags over their heads and would choke and suffocate them. They handcuffed them to scorching hot radiators and held them there as they screamed in anguish. And if that wouldn't break them, they administered electric shocks to the black men's lips, to their gums, and even their penis and testicles until they would confess. Who wouldn't confess after that? Who wouldn't confess after that? They wasted millions of taxpayers' dollars to tell us something that we already knew. When the information about the Chicago police torturing black men came to the attention of your mayor, Richard Daley, who was then the state attorney, Richard Daley did absolutely nothing. Shortly thereafter, Richard Daley ran for mayor as the law and order candidate, if you please, and was elected overwhelmingly with the black vote. And then Richard Daley and his political cronies covered up and refused to allow the media or the public to have access to this sadistic Chicago police torture report until the statute of limitations ran out, so the victims and their families could not sue the city of Chicago. And his political friends and the police that were involved would not have to pay for their unconscionable sick crimes they committed against these black men. And now, the mayor's all over the media saying that he was not aware for 20 years that Chicago police were torturing black men. Now, here's a man who has a reputation for being a hands-on mayor, involved in every area of city government, but he didn't know Chicago, the city that works for whom? These black men didn't get justice. This isn't justice for these black men. We can't let this go. We can't forget this. Does the mayor think that we are stupid? That the black community is just plain stupid? Well, maybe he does. And sadly, maybe he's right. Because we keep on voting him back into...
Well, that's enough, but that was the old Les Brown. You never heard that one, Stacy.
I sure didn't. I'm sitting here with my mouth on the floor like, what?
Oh, let me tell you. One time a little girl got killed in Chicago, and when I heard about it, I was so upset. She got killed by a stray bullet. And I told Elroy Smith, I said, if you let me on the air, I guarantee you we will find the killers, because everybody in the neighborhood said they didn't know. And so I did an editorial about it, and I want you to hear what happened. Hold a minute.
Hello, this is Les Brown. As you are aware, recently, tragedy struck our community as gunfire rang out at a church parking lot, killing a teenage musician and wounding another. Again, we see the unexplainable loss of a young life. We've seen so much of that in the past month. And here we are now, mourning another. This latest boy, Terrell Bosley, was just 18 years old, and by all accounts of those who knew him, a gifted and good person. He was a self-taught musician who preferred to use his talents to praise God. In fact, he was at church to have an early practice session before the rest of the choir arrived, and he was shot and killed. Shot on God's property. Police are searching for the shooter, and we know somebody out there can help them in that search. Somebody knows who killed this young boy and who shot the other one. Somebody can help police get to the bottom of this now and perhaps begin to find answers so we can begin to heal. But somebody has not started talking yet. I'm sure you would wonder, why would somebody choose to protect a murderer rather than help save other lives? The reasons many give for staying silent are, well, they don't want to get involved in other people's business. Well, this is all of our business. An underground criminal movement promotes this mentality, that it's better not to snitch than it is to help fight crime and save lives in our community. But there's no honor in protecting heartless criminals, murderers, nor is there safety for who's to say that you or someone you love will not be the next victim. Whatever the reason for letting silence rule, it cannot continue. Silence provides a haven for those who deserve to pay for their crimes. These people need to be taken off the streets. That people would be so bold as to gun down another of our children anywhere, let alone a church parking lot, deserves our attention. It demands our voice. We must let this person know, and people like this know we are no longer looking the other way.
Well, let me stop that. Anyhow, the person, his mother turned him in. I mean, when you hear it was a very riveting. Several situations. See what's happening now. This reminded me when I was a disc jockey. I felt that radio was an instrument not just to entertain and to tell jokes and laugh and just be foolish, that it could be used to create a culture, a mindset, and create and develop collaborative, achievement-driven, supportive communities that will allow us to change our mindset, to decrease the level of unconscious self-hatred that caused 95% of black men to kill other black men, to decrease the incarceration rate and the recidivism rate and the dropout rate, and to create communities where our children can play in the front yard, communities that we don't have to worry about being killed by a stray bullet, communities that are not ripped apart by drug pushers and drug addicts that the media is a powerful instrument, and that's what I was known for in Columbus, Ohio. That's why even when they fired me, was dealing with a police brutality case called the Kahiki incident, where a Vietnam veteran was struck by police with a club while he was holding his 8-month-old baby. And I editorialized about that, and shortly thereafter, I was fired because nowhere in the country were people talking about police brutality. It was not fashionable in 1974 when I went to Columbus, Ohio. And that was another life of mine. And when he sent me these, there are several, I cried because when I think about what's going on now, when I see where a young boy, 25 years old, killed his 7-year-old sister, and 2 other young kids that were at the house he was supposed to be babysitting for. This is unprecedented. This is not a level of craziness that has happened in our community. And you can't tell me that garbage in, garbage out. When we have our kids listening to anything and watching anything that does not value life and filled with profanity and does not give them a vision of themselves in the future and creates an entertainment-driven culture, and anything goes, how they dress, how they carry themselves, the language that they use, and we sit around and pay big dollars to go see these filthy-mouthed comedians and think it's funny, everything's fun and games, and the average immigrant who comes to this country have a 4 times greater chance of creating their own business, buying a home, and becoming financially empowered and independent because they are purpose-driven, because they are achievement-driven, because they have a strong sense of self. When you have a strong sense of self, that gives your life a sense of purpose. And when your life has a sense of purpose, that gives your life a sense of direction. I'm in the airport the other day. A young guy came by, and he purposely had his pants below the cheeks of his behind, and his underwear showing, and he obviously had been sitting for a period of time, so there was a circle of moisture that formulated in his underwear that you could see. And as I looked at him, it reminded me of who I used to be. It reminded me that if he had lived in Columbus, that I'd have got into his head with one of my editorials, and he wouldn't dress like that. I'd got in his head, and he would have more respect for himself. I'd have got in his head, and he'd had a vision of himself in the future. So last night, when I was listening to these, I was asking God, am I doing the right thing? Do my voice matter? Am I Too old has my season left. You've given me grace. I'm still here. Is this the message that I'm supposed to be giving now? Speak to me. I need to know. I'm planning on going into prisons and juvenile detention centers. We got too many young men that are in prison and too many young girls. The incarceration of females has increased. And many of them are more vicious than the young men that have been in prison. So while everybody's talking about the eclipse, on this day, I'm sure that Nat Turner had some moments when he was asking himself, God, is this what you want me to do? That there comes a moment as we face our mortality that we question, am I on the right path? Am I doing what you want me to do, not what I want to do? Not my will, but thy will. And I couldn't sleep last night. I couldn't sleep because I feel I'm not doing enough. I can do more. I know, and I need sleep so that this year I will win my battle with cancer. I need to get the rest, but I couldn't sleep. These editorials are playing in my mind plus more. And when I saw those men with those torches and saying Jews will not replace us, when I went to this meeting and they said, get that nigger out of here, there's something in me that I just feel I'm not doing enough. But I'm just waiting for direction. What Les Brown should I be? Which one is most needed now? The one that says you have greatness within you? The one to tell people what they need to do to make it during this time with the most toxic, debilitating, destructive leadership we have ever had in the history of this country? Or this other Les Brown that some call militant, this other Les Brown that told what he saw, this other Les Brown who spoke from the pain that he experienced as a young man and was brutalized by police, this other Les Brown who knew how cops extracted confessions in Miami when they would round us up and strip us naked and use clothes hangers and put it around our genitals and hit us one time and said, either sign this confession or you're going to fall with the next blow. This other Les Brown who witnessed that, who experienced that. I don't know where my voice comes from. I often think, because I'm adopted, did my birth mother or birth father have this gift? I often feel that even though Mamie Brown didn't give birth to me, she was a fighter. And there was something about her that tapped into me that Wesley didn't get, Margaret Ann, Linda, Leonard, Angelo, Sharon, Linda. There was something in Mamie Brown that brought something out in me. That when I went to Columbus, I was a voice of change in a different kind of way. And I talked to her last night. Mama, what am I supposed to do now? I still want to make you proud. I want to make my children proud. I want to serve humanity. As Leo Tolstoy says, I face inevitable death. What purpose and meaning in my life that will not be undone or destroyed when I'm gone? Is it training speakers? Should I stop speaking and just focus on training others? Is it to be a social activist or to motivate and inspire? Can I do both? Can I marry the two messages? A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Keep thine eye single and thy whole body will be full of light. Speak to me, Lord. Speak to me. Thy servant heareth thee. Tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. That's my story, Stacy. I'm sticking to it.
Mr. Brown, you have given us quite a bit to digest, and I feel that the clarity you seek is already there, and you will continue to do your work. You haven't stopped, but there might be some other pieces of your voice that need to be amplified for such a time like this. And we thank you for reminding us of how much work we've done. Still have to do to think that that was in the 70s and the stories have not changed much, just the names, and that's the unfortunate part, but there's still hope. And while you have taken your voice to new levels, to countries all over this world, inspiring a higher level of operating and being in our personal growth and development, you have saved some lives. You have impacted the results in some communities. But since there is so much more to do, we know you will get that clarity of direction of how your voice continues to amplify the injustice that we unfortunately are seeing play out before our eyes in a way that none of us ever thought we would see in 2017. Yes. And it's a sobering reminder of our commitment to be the best. That greatness that you talk about, Les, I feel that there's still more of us on this planet who don't believe or subscribe to the racism and bigotry and negativity that we've seen displayed, unfortunately, in Charlottesville and other areas, that there are more of us who have listened to your message, who do understand what it means to be your best self so that you can inspire someone else to do the same. I still believe that there's more of us that can drown those voices, and our voices of hope and opportunity can be the ones that get the sound bites in media, that turn around what we're seeing, that don't discard the truth, because that's the other part of it, Les. Sometimes we don't want to face the truth, and we want to call it fake news and other things, and we can't run from the truth. But when we embrace it and we can move towards conversations, like you say, of collaborative, achievement-driven, supportive communities, we can change this world one person at a time. Because if we give up hope, then there's no sense in living. If we don't see the opportunity, then why breathe? So you have done your work. You have created an army and a soldier of voices that are out here with platforms that are helping to change lives, inspire children, create hope. All of us who have been blessed to work with you, to be mentored by you, that have written programs, books, curriculums, and created platforms that we are changing lives. Yeah, I believe that there is still hope and opportunity, and we will fill in those gaps and stomp out the voices of racism, bigotry, and negativity that are plaguing our world. So while I know you'll be listening for further instruction, Mr. Brown, I feel you've already received confirmation on how your voice is impacting and changing this world. And we'll amplify those areas where we can make a difference, because indifference is not an option. We have to take a stand for what's right, what's just, and the equality that people lost their lives for. As you mentioned at the beginning of this broadcast, how Dick Gregory marched with Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., and he stood for nonviolent, peaceful protests around bringing justice to our world. And he made headway, but we have to pick up the baton and keep running the race, because we're not done. And in the spirit of Nat Turner that you invoked on this call, and the desire to speak out, and sometimes it has to be a drastic, abrupt change to wake people up, that if you sit by and watch it happen, it'll only be a matter of time before it comes to your doorstep. So thank
You're right.
you, Mr. Brown.
You know what I'd like you to
Thank
do this call tonight? I want you to upload it to Facebook and put out a message for people to listen. And for those that are listening who want to make a difference, who would like me to train them how to do that, I think a leadership training on how to become an effective voice in your community, to teach you how to become a community activist that I once was, and how to impact things politically. I'd like to see how many people are interested, or feedback from people who heard the message tonight. I'd like to know that. Yes. Have them post on our Facebook, and people who want to be trained by me and have the resources to invest in themselves, email me at lesbrown@77@gmail.com. Thank you. I love you. I love what you said, and it means a lot. I just thank God.
Love you more. Love you more, Mr. Brown. There's nothing you can do about it. Thank you for this message. And ladies and gentlemen, if you heard Mr. Brown's request, we will upload this to his Facebook page at brown.les. That's brown.les on Facebook. And you'll be able to share your feedback, your comments, and your desire to continue this conversation and find ways in which you can have effective discourse. We've heard enough of the anger and the negativity, but what positive things do you want to bring to the universe? And are you interested in having Mr. Brown share how he built the activism that he was able to effectively create in Ohio and even in Miami? So the charge tonight is for you to just sit with the words. We're not going to open back up the call. We're just going to ask you to visit the Facebook page, brown.les. And when you see the recording posted, to please put your comments there, and or email lesbrown77@gmail.com if you're interested in this specific request that Mr. Brown has made for those of us who want to use our voices for good. Quite a bit to digest, family, but I am confident and I am secure in my beliefs that those of you who are connected to this call, who are part of this community, that we're cut from the same cloth, and we're going to use our voices for change. We're going to stand under the beacon of hope and make a difference and drown out the voices that would dare to tear apart this great democracy or interrupt the opportunity for each and every citizen to walk in the greatness that they have inside. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. God bless you all, and if you want to email me as well, you can send a message right through my website, actionactionbook.com, actionactionbook.com, and you can send a note there. So you have 3 options of how to get your responses back to us. That's brown.less on Facebook, brown.less on Facebook, or lesbrown77@gmail.com, or you can email me straight through the website on actionactionbook.com. God bless you all. Hope that you continue to enjoy these last summer days and to reflect on how your brilliance, your voice, your story can make our world a better place. This is Dr. Stacey.